All right, so here we are. Hi, Tom.
Hi, Grace.
I'm so happy that you were able to speak today. And there you are in Spain. What wonderful.
Yeah,
What a thing. So,
amazing.
yeah,
Yeah,
so good.
Techno technology, it's catching up with reality.
Yes, I know. I love it. So, well, I am loving connecting with people who've been really impacted by the work.
Mm,
And you and I will be doing this a retreat in June in Brighton Bush. So it made me really think, ooh, and I don't really know how you first came into the work. And I'd love to, let's start there. Like, what was happening in your life and how did you even find out about Katie or,
mm.
yeah.
Yeah, well, it was kind of a progression. In my early 20s, I read Autobiography of a Yogi by Paramahansa Yogananda. And at the time, I was, I would say, like extremely apathetic person. And, there was just nothing in the world that made sense to me as as far as
Yeah.
a path or a place to put my time and energy. And somebody gave me that book, and I read it, and the light went on. Actually, right before somebody gave me that book, I was sitting up in the mountains in Colorado with my friend's dog, and I kept looking at the dog, thinking he knows something I don't. And and yeah, then this voice came to me, yeah, like a thought, like, but it was so loud it was like a voice. It was like, Tom, you're here spiritually evolving. I was like, oh, that's right. I forgot. And then a couple weeks later, somebody gave me Autobiography of a Yogi, and I read it, and the light went on, and so I started meditating every day, uh, using the the meditation techniques that Yogananda taught. And so I did that for about 16 years before I found the work.
Mm.
And then in between, I started working with a woman who she did breath work and kind of emotional release work. And I had some just big releases happen. And then she happened to see Katie. And so she gave me, through her, I got the Judge Your Neighbor worksheet, and back then it was called the Little Blue Book,
Oh,
which is now the little, Loving What Is book.
yeah.
But anyway, I read that little book, that little pamphlet, and read the Judge Your Neighbor worksheet, and I was like, oh, this has everything that I'm attracted to. Like intuitively, I could feel it. It had just the straight up meditation. It had emotional release. I could tell there was emotional release in it, and you know, like really bringing to light your ego so you could see it clearly. But anyway, I was like, oh my God, this is just the neatest little packaged meditation.
Uh-huh.
And I think that was like in the spring of 1999. And
Wow.
then,
Uh-huh.
yeah, in the summertime, I went on a family trip to visit my sister who lived in Hermosa Beach, California. And at the time, Katie lived in Manhattan Beach, which was right next door. And as often as the case, as life would have it, Katie was given back-to-back free weekend events during the exact 9 days that I was going to be there visiting my sister.
Oh, cool.
And so the price was right. And so I went to all 4 days. And so this was like after 16 years of meditating every day doing this other work. On the fourth day, I was watching somebody tell their story and working with Katie, and this woman's story just got me in touch with this hurt place inside, that in a deeper way. And then also this rage inside. But I could feel this deep hurt, and then this rage, it wanted to hurt everybody who had ever hurt me.
Mm-hmm.
And then all of a sudden there was this flash of awareness where I saw that I had been hurting me with my thinking. Like, it was just crystal clear that was the only place hurt had ever come from, was my thinking.
Wow.
And then I was giving me what I wanted, which was to suffer or hurt because I had been hurting me.
Oh.
And so, it just, in that moment, I saw I had been doing the whole thing.
Wow.
People hadn't been doing it to me. Life hadn't been doing it to me. I'd been doing it all. And when I saw that clearly, like, the internal experience was like the mind just let go.
Wow.
I would say it was like the need for control just completely dropped away.
Wow.
And I went from that intense hurt and rage to the most profound peace I'd ever experienced.
Wow.
Just in a flash. And it was like, oh, this is what real peace is. Like, I'd known calmness through meditation. I'd gotten very calm.
Uh-huh. Yes.
But I didn't actually know what real peace was until that moment. And so after that moment, I was totally hooked.
Cool.
And so I went to her school. And so that was in the summertime. I went to her school in October of '99, and then was blown away again, and went to staff in March. Was blown away again. And then, and I thought, when I went to staff in March, I thought, well, this will be the last time that I do anything like this, because I had a young family, and money just, there was no way I could do it financially. So I thought, well, I'll stretch here to do it one more time. And then Katie invited me to come to the European schools. And that summer, back then, she did two schools in the summer, and they were 14 days long. But
wow.
She invited me to go there, and asked me what my concerns were about going, and I told her, I'm raising a family, so she made it doable for me financially. And so probably for like the next 5 years, I went to every school.
Wow.
Yeah.
I remember you from my very first school because you read the beautiful, Rumi that I always like to read also. And
yeah.
So beautiful. So I could hear your voice. Did you read all the way back then at those other schools? Did you?
I did. The first time staffing, I got to, I couldn't believe it. I'm sitting there because I'd been immersed in the Coleman Barks translation of Rumi. I've been immersed in that book for years. Like, it was a part of my spiritual path, reading those poems. And then so at the school, they asked for a volunteer to read Rumi, and I was like, "You're kidding, right?"
That's great.
Like, yes, I would love to do that. So.
Wow. So sweet. Yeah. Wow. That's wonderful.
Yeah.
And then you must have, so that was being up in Germany or going to all those schools, and and there you were in 2005. So you must have kept going.
Yeah. From about then, 2000 to 2005, I did every school. So
wow.
We were doing 4 a year.
Yeah.
Five. We did 5 1 year. And
wow.
4 a year. Yep. And they were 14 days long at the time.
Wow. Amazing.
Yep. And I forget when it changed to the 9-day school, somewhere in there, 2003 maybe.
Okay. Yeah. Well, that is a lot. So that's a lot of, what were you doing in your life, like as work or whatever? And then, I mean, how did that all work together to be able to go off like that?
Yeah. Well, I had my own business. I did landscaping and construction. And
right.
So,
cool. Yeah. So you can do projects and then leave.
Yeah. So I just
Yeah.
made it work. And then at some point, I dropped that and started working for a friend doing construction. He had his own business, and I, I told him I'm going to be doing these things,
Yeah.
and
Wow.
he was okay with that. So
That's so cool. Yeah.
yeah,
Like setting up your life for this is part of it.
yeah. Well, life obviously life really wanted me to be there. So
Yeah. Yeah. Right. Yes.
but,
It was set up
uh,
for you.
yeah, and I really wanted it also.
Yeah.
I mean, it's
Yeah.
just clear.
Yeah.
I literally put all my eggs in one basket, and that was my inner work.
Wow.
I just knew that if I was ever going to show up in the way that I wanted to show up as a husband and a father, that was like the most important roles.
Yeah.
That
Yeah.
I had to be serious about my inner work,
Yeah.
because it was very clear that Tom, as he was quite a mess.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Yeah. So when you had that, so that first initial time seeing Katie and kind of having that experience of peace,
Hmm.
what did you notice then about like it coming and going, or was there something like there all the time, or
Well, for a long time after that experience, if I just sat and got still, I could tap into it, but it wasn't. When I first had it, it was just there, and there was nothing I could do about it. Like if I got up, no matter what, it was just solid peace. And then that kind of went away, but I could, if I would sit and get still, I could tap into it again. But it wasn't like wasn't with me all day long, and
mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
and so um, and and so I knew I had to keep. What I've read since that makes sense to me is one reason that kind of an experience doesn't stick with us is because there's still so many subconscious beliefs, that pull us back into, into the
Yeah.
stories.
Yes.
And
Yeah.
yeah, and so I remember sitting with Katie once early on, and she just said, Tom, the only difference between you and me is I've identified and questioned more thoughts. And yeah, so I really heard her, and and I started. It's somewhere in there, just became a daily practice where every day I was taking some time to identify what I was believing and to question it. And I had already had a meditation practice where I was sitting twice a day for anywhere from 45 minutes to an hour twice a day, and so I so I already had the habit, and I just replaced the work. The work became my main meditation.
And would you sit and write? Would you write down the thought?
Yeah, well, I remember after my first school staffing, that's when I started doing the work every day.
Uh-huh.
And I remember it was like the next 13 months I wrote a worksheet every day
Wow.
and questioned it.
Yeah.
And then after that 13-month period, then I might write, 2 to 4 worksheets in a week. And then so gradually I started writing less over time, but it got to a point where I would sit in my meditation and I just start to review my life and notice where there was tension,
Sure.
and then just sit with that tension and identify, like sometimes I just identify one thought and then just work on that one thought.
Yeah. Yeah.
But
Yeah. Did you find writing out the whole worksheet? I always find that incredibly helpful to like really sit with it. Is that what, when you were writing a whole worksheet, you mean your Judge Your Neighbor worksheet, you sat and wrote a whole one out?
yes,
Yes.
yeah,
Yes.
yeah,
Yeah.
the whole thing.
Yeah.
And after a while, I loved the meditation of writing the worksheet. I loved,
Uh-huh.
after a while, I just loved really getting still with that upset part of me,
Uh-huh.
and to look through its eyes, and just like, what is it seeing? What is it believing?
Yeah.
And give it a voice. But over time, I learned that the first part of the word, um, it's like we're beginning to bring a loving, listening presence to the upset parts of us. But um, for me, all parts of the work can set us free, because all parts of the work are actually awakening us to this kind, loving, listening presence. And to me, that's what heals every hurt place inside of us, is being met with love. Katie will usually say, meet your mind, meet your thinking, meet these precious ones inside of us with understanding. And
Mm.
to me, love and understanding, like they're basically the same thing. So we're meeting our internal world with love. Ultimately, to me, that's what the work is.
Say that too, they share. I found the same kind of a feel with the process, like starting with the judge your neighbor and just having it be so freeing to be like 5 years old having a tantrum, letting that be there. And
Yeah, for it to be seen, heard,
yeah,
not shun, not say, don't, stop it, shut up.
yes. What's wrong with me that I'm thinking this way? Like that's, yeah, just stay right
Uh-huh.
there. Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. As Katie puts it, all these stories or characters, they have a right to their life, and so the work helps us to begin to honor that right.
Yeah.
And that's when those knots inside of us start to loosen, when they're heard. So just the judge your neighbor worksheet all by itself begins to loosen,
Uh-huh.
because that precious one's been heard. It's
Yeah.
been seen, it's been heard, it's being met with understanding. It just starts to relax
Yes. Yeah.
already.
Yeah. So beautiful. That's a good way to put it. Yeah.
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 And it doesn't mean there weren't times where I had my agenda. Like,
Uh-huh.
you
Uh-huh.
know, I'm getting still with this upset part of me so I can get rid of it.
Yeah. Right. Right.
But anytime I did it that way, I noticed that part that was hurt or upset, it wouldn't actually open up.
Yeah.
In fact, it would give me started to notice it would give me thoughts to work on that were totally unrelated. Like, oh, here, go look there.
Yeah, yeah. Keep you busy over here.
Yeah, come back when you can meet me with love.
Yeah, that's
And,
a really
and then we'll talk.
yeah, yeah. So what was a powerful awareness, like in a specific, in a judge your neighbor, in a situation that you could share, something that maybe you saw it a certain way if something comes to you, and then you were sitting with it and kind of went, oh, or just what the work is.
Yeah, well, like my wife definitely was my guru. So
Mm.
there's
Mm.
no doubt I wrote more worksheets on her than anyone.
Isn't that so fabulous? This close person, yeah, that right
Yeah,
brings.
and I would say one of the biggest ones that I remember. I mean, so many. I just became a much kinder human being. But one was like she was very good at speaking her mind. So if something upset her about me, she told me.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, and so one of the big sticking points. So I would work through a lot of stuff, but the biggest sticking point in my relationship with her was around wanting and needing her to own her part. Like
Oh, yeah.
I think I was clear, and then she'd bring up more stuff, and I was lucky because she had great stamina, so she could bring up stuff and then talk about it for hours. So I couldn't fool myself
Yeah.
that like my fuse was longer,
Yes.
but I still had a fuse.
Yeah, yeah.
And
Family.
thankfully, she had amazing stamina.
Yeah.
So she would always, eventually she would get me, but that was the main fuse, was I need her to own her part. And so
Wow.
when
Yeah.
that shifted, um, uh,
Mm.
and I can even remember the time when it really shifted, and she went on like a 3 hour expression of upset. And I can remember that it was the first time I could tell I was actually listening. Like there was a very deep listening that was happening.
Wow.
And after she was done, she even commented. She said, "You know, this is the first time I've actually felt heard." And I could tell inside of me that I had. It was the first time I had actually heard her. You know,
Wow.
really listened. Yeah. So
Yeah.
that was like the big one, or one of the big ones.
Yes. Yeah. Isn't that something?
Yeah.
Very inspiring. It's yeah. I love that you're speaking about that. And I ask people sometimes about their like moments in the work. Often it's a primary relationship like that, like a,
Yeah.
a partner.
Yeah. Well, it's of
Yeah.
course they're going to bring up our stuff.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
I
So
mean,
awesome.
because we have the greatest attachment there
Yes.
to having it work.
Right.
So
Yeah. Yeah. That's a good point. Like sort of seeing what you feel afraid of.
mhm.
Yeah. So from there, here you are, and you do the work all over the place.
Yeah, I do. It's
When did you first get invited or gather with people or have that?
well, like I was when I was doing traveling with doing the school a lot in the early years, 2000 to 2005, that's when I did the most. Um,
Uh-huh.
I was living in Ashland, Oregon, and I just all of a sudden I just wanted to offer the work, have a space where people could come and do the work once a week, and so somebody uh, knew I was, staffing these schools and knew about the work and offered their office. She was a naturopath and offered her office every Monday night. So I'm not sure how many years I was every Monday night. It was for, I think I might ask for donations after a while, but at first it was just free.
Wow. Yeah.
And yeah,
Yeah.
and eventually over time, sometimes I'd show up, I'd be the only one, and so
Uh-huh.
I would just do the work with me, or there'd be one person. But over time, it got to be where there was regularly like 20 to 25 people every Monday.
Awesome. Yeah.
Yeah, it was just a small town of 20,000 people.
Beautiful.
So yeah, and so that was where you could say I cut my teeth on working with groups.
Sure. Yeah.
Yeah,
What
and
would you say you learned about, like, what's the one thing that you learned about having a gathering like that? Was it like a 2 hour evening?
yeah, it was two. It would be like 7 to 9, I think.
Yeah.
2 hour, hour and a half or 2 hours. I don't remember.
Yeah. So you
Yeah.
don't have that many people. Some people are just not going to speak necessarily, right?
Hmm.
So what was one thing you learned there with yourself? I don't know. Yeah.
Oh well, what I loved about that for me was I got to watch my ego, um,
Yeah.
leading a group,
Right.
and because it was so regular, I got to see it regularly, and 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 it was like, and the main thing for me was wanting or needing recognition as like wise or peaceful or
Mm.
um, you know uh, knowledge, knowledgeable or
Yeah.
uh,
Yeah.
and so it was great, and and I have a good way with words, so like I was very successful at convincing people, you know, like having my ego agenda happen.
Isn't that so fascinating? Wow. Yeah.
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 And the beautiful thing about that is every time I succeeded in that ego agenda, I always landed in a very empty place.
Uh,
Every time it was just empty. There'd be a little thrill, and then empty. And because it was like every Monday, over time I just lost interest.
uh-huh.
It was just like, why? And that's where I always like the original impulse was to be of service,
Hmm.
and little did I know that it was going to be in tremendous service to myself.
Yes. Right. Yeah.
To be able to see this, and so as that started to fall away, like a more open, genuine desire to be available, to be of service, to really support people in realizing for themselves.
Yeah.
Uh,
What a
so that,
journey.
yeah, started coming in.
Yeah. Really. Yeah. It's very sweet. I
Uh-huh.
In mine, I had to do the work on they need to get something.
Yeah,
Like the people that are coming need to get, and I
yeah,
don't see myself as good with words, so I would be sort of bumbling a little bit or not really sharing. And sometimes mine would be like, I'm not sharing something that I see just out of just, well, this is what it's like for me. I wouldn't share that because, I don't want to, anyway, like, like an ego
yeah,
shyness, you know?
yeah. Yeah, I don't want to interfere,
Yeah.
and definitely don't want them seeing me like
Right. Yeah.
putting that out.
Right. Right. Oh, that's funny. Yeah. So, yeah, it's quite a journey. It's beautiful. That's
Yeah.
sweet. And then, so from there, you had those, weekly meeting, and then it must have
Well,
developed.
then because I was traveling with doing all the schools, you know, people in my community started hearing about that. More people's, I kind of got known, you could say, because I was at all the schools for
Uh-huh.
that time period.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
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 Um, but I think where it first really got started was there was a mother and daughter who came to my Monday night thing, and they who lived in Ashland, and they were the mom was well known in the raw food movement,
Oh, yeah.
and they, as a family, they used to do 7-day retreats where people would come and fast on fresh, raw, green smoothies. And
Fabulous.
so they had been coming to the Monday night group. I didn't know them, and then
Uh-huh.
so she approached me and said, "Hey, would we do these 7-day retreats? I lecture for an hour and a half on nutrition. Everybody fasts on green smoothies, and then the rest of the time they complain
Uh-huh.
because they're all detoxing."
Oh, so good, right? Yeah.
Yeah, she was like, "Would you come and do the work with these people?"
Fabulous. Wow.
Yeah, so over the next 3 years, we did 15 of those 7-day retreats, um,
Wow.
and I would do the work about 5 hours a day, and she would lecture an hour and a half, and then everybody would fast on those green smoothies. It was wonderful. It was
Wow.
very interesting too, because most of the people came because of her. Like they'd never even heard of the work. They certainly never heard of me,
Wow.
and they came, and so in 5 hours a day they're doing the work.
Isn't that something? That's amazing.
So it
Yeah.
was, you talk about an education for me, like, running into resistance, running into,
Sure.
the whole gamut. And
Yeah.
Um,
You're like, who is this guy? What's going on?
yeah, why? I'm not here for that. I'm all about the body and body health. And but I remember I started to loosen up, have more fun. But so I used to have fun. At some point, once there was a rapport, I would look at him. So health has anything to do with the body. Is that true?
Awesome.
Yeah.
Wow.
And I loved some of the looks I would get from.
That's so great. Oh my gosh. Yeah.
But the one reason I could so confidently put that out to him is just in my own work. I had seen that the real health that I was looking at for was peace.
Yeah.
That I wanted the body to be healthy, but then all of a sudden I saw, oh, I want that to be healthy so I can be peaceful. Oh, that's the real health that we're all looking for, is peace, or peace of mind.
Wow. I'm
So
sure it must have included like, yeah, really. Could you find people well, by 7 days, yeah, I need this body to be healthy, and even life and death matters, like, why am I doing these smoothies, or so that I live and don't suffer or something.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I would just touch into that, but most of the rest of the time it was like sister, brother, mother.
Uh-huh.
Uh,
Uh-huh.
all the standards.
Yeah.
Yeah, and a lot of fun. I remember one woman. She came the first day. She was like, "This is ridiculous," but she did write a worksheet on her sister that first day. She didn't come the rest of the week till the last day.
Wow.
And but she did write a worksheet on her sister about a specific issue, and we did do the work in the group on her worksheet. And then she came the last day, and then she came up to me afterwards, and she goes, "You wouldn't believe it, but my sister called, and she gave me everything I've been trying to get from her for years." And she
Wow.
was like, "What? What were we doing here? What is going on?"
Isn't that, I love that when that happens. Like, it's not that uncommon, like a thing like that.
No, it's not, because life is kind. It's loving.
Yeah.
It's not purposely depriving us of anything. I mean, it might deprive us, but only because there's something better for us. But ultimately, it's just not
Yeah.
the nature of life. It's kind. It's loving. It's here for us.
Yeah.
And as we undo our stories, we'll get more and more evidence, and we'll even see past experiences as, oh my God, I missed all the, when sitting with the turnaround, oh my God, there was way more support there than lack of support,
Yeah.
or way more love there than lack of love. And because of my story, I missed it.
Yeah. Shocking sometimes. What
Yeah,
it's like, oh.
that's, uh-huh.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's shocking, right?
Yes. Yeah.
Shocking in such a good way.
Yes, in such a good way. Like, wow.
So humbling.
Yeah. My mind is so, yeah, that it would just be like, not like be able to see through a straw, as they
Yeah,
say.
yeah.
Little, yeah, yeah. So great. Well, do you notice now in your meditation, anything, what do you notice about your thoughts if they're stressful, or I don't know?
Well, now it's like it's I'll sit and do the work formally because I work with people.
Mm-hmm.
And so whenever I'm working with someone, I'm working on whatever thought we're working on. I'm working that thought.
Yes.
So I formally do the work that way. But I would say internally, as if a story shows up, it'll have a disturbance with it. And now it feels more like it's just immediately met with love, like love and freedom. I
Mm.
would say, like it's met with, like, honey, you're free to believe that story. If you know, if it had a voice, it would say, honey, you're free to believe that story for as long as you want.
Wow.
100% free. I
Uh-huh.
would never ever abandon you or force you to question that. So it's met with freedom, and and to me, freedom and love are so close. It's almost like there's no difference.
Mm.
And so it just feels like I'll just feel this overwhelming love
Mm.
for that disturbed character, and most of the time it just relaxes completely, almost like it just goes right into question number 4. It just
Uh-huh.
relaxes into love, almost like non-existent, like the story's not there. Yeah.
Very sweet.
And,
Beautiful.
and then sometimes some are a little stickier, so like I have to like sit down
Uh-huh.
and do that, and then consciously do that process
Yes.
to
Yes.
consciously welcome that upset one, consciously let it know it's welcome, no demand to change, it's free, and then usually that love will get started, and the whole thing will relax.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's a beautiful way to put it. It's like welcome, welcome, welcome.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. It's so easy, at least it sure has been for my mind, to go into um, the what we talked about at the beginning. Like I have to get rid of this, or there must be something wrong with me, and then you're
Yeah.
on that wild goose chase of
Yeah. You're meeting it with the agenda to get rid of it.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
And
yeah,
that's just common because we all walk around with so much condemnation,
yeah, yeah,
and but over time that loosens up.
yeah. Well, it's so wonderful to talk with you today. So grateful.
Yay.
I'm looking forward to seeing you in person.
Oh, yeah, me too. And in my beloved Oregon.
Yes, right. Yes, so
Yeah.
good. Have you ever been to Brighton Bush before?
Nope, I've only heard of it for 25 years while I
Isn't
lived
that
there.
isn't that something? Yeah.
So thanks for
Yes, I know.
supporting me and getting there.
I was invited long ago by a
Uh,
lovely facilitator, a person who loved the work, and
mm,
that's what. So I showed up.
yeah,
Yeah, and yeah, it's very nurturing. I think you'll love it because there's no internet, there's no cell phone service, there's just these big trees,
wow,
and
wow,
very supportive. So yeah, it makes it so you can't get distracted with things that we
yeah,
usually often get distracted with.
yeah, wow.
Yeah.
Oh my
So
God.
yeah. Awesome.
Okay, I didn't know I was signing up for that.
Yeah. I'm signing up.
Okay, I'm
Yeah.
free. I'm free.
Yes. Love it. Well, see you soon, and thank you so
Yep.
much for this time.
Yeah, you're welcome, Grace. Thank you also for inviting me.
All right. Bye.
Bye, honey.
Lots of love.
Same to you.